President Trump stood by his warning for North Korea on Thursday, saying his promise of fire and fury may not have been tough enough. The president also commented on China's role in containing North Korea and how the U.S. might urge China to get involved.
I think China can do a lot more, yes. China can, and I think China will do a lot more. Look, we have trade with China. We lose hundreds of billions of dollars a year on trade with China. They know how I feel. It's not going to continue like that. But if China helps us, I feel a lot differently toward trade.
CBS News foreign correspondent Ben Tracy is in Beijing. So, Ben, President Trump has been critical of China's unwillingness to be tough on North Korea in the past, and you heard what he had to say there. Break down for us what the president was talking about and what else the U.S. can do to pressure China's government to act.
Well, it's clear with China the president is definitely using a carrot and stick approach. On one day, he will compliment them for their efforts to try to rein in North Korea. They did go along with those very tough U.S. sanctions that really upset North Korea. And then on another day, he will threaten them with a trade war. The Chinese government came out just a few weeks ago and very explicitly warned the United States not to link North Korea to trade between the two countries. The president has doubled down on that, saying that he would give them a better deal if they somehow do more with North Korea. Now, what exactly do more on North Korea is unclear. We don't know at this point how much North Korea will even listen to China. It does account for about 90% of its trade, China does, with North Korea, but it's unclear how much leverage China has at this point.
Well, Senator Lindsey Graham said in an interview Thursday that, quote, war will only happen if China completely fails in stopping North Korea, and China could do more if they choose. I want China to have the choice of having to deal with a nut job in their backyard, which would be very unpleasant, and rein him in, or have a war in their backyard. So Senator Graham echoed some of what the president said, but what motivation does China have to pressure North Korea into stopping the regime's testing of ballistic missiles and development of nuclear weapons?
Yeah, I think when we talk about China, it's important to break down what they want and what they don't want. China does not see their role as simply to make the U.S. happy and solve this problem for it. In fact, China has said almost every week that this is not their problem to solve. They say the U.S. needs to start talking to North Korea if they want this problem solved. China does not want North Korea to have nuclear weapons. That is not in their self-interest. But they also don't want the regime to collapse. They fear if the North Korean regime collapses, then you have this instability on the Korean Peninsula. You could have a refugee crisis on the 900-mile-long border that China shares with North Korea. And worse yet, you could have a war, and China knows that if it does come to war, it's very likely that South Korea and the U.S. would win that war. And then you conceivably could have a unified Korea with the United States military on China's border. That is not something it wants. So China's approach is, how do we contain this? How do we end the weapons program, but not end the North-South dynamic that currently exists on the Korean Peninsula?
Finally, Ben, on Thursday, the U.S. sent a Navy destroyer into waters that China claims as its own. How does that factor into the relationship between the two countries as they attempt to figure out the next steps here on North Korea?
Certainly doesn't help. The Chinese government came out and said that they strongly oppose that exercise. The Trump administration has been pretty vocal, saying that they plan to conduct what they call freedom of navigation exercises in these waters. There's even a schedule that they've put out for when these are going to happen. But to do it right now at this particular point, when you're also asking for China's help on North Korea, does seem a bit odd. It does seem like they are antagonizing China at a time when they really need China's help. So it's unclear what the strategy there is, or if there is one, or perhaps the administration simply does not link those two things.
All right, Ben Tracy in Beijing for us. Ben, thank you.